Hello and welcome back to the channel where we are making a video game from scratch using Love2d and Lua. Now, we're working on our spellcast element upgrades, and we have it where we have this whole system here. It renders whatever color if you can afford it. It also renders the appropriate text if you can, depending on what your active level is. So if you've already got it unlocked, or it'll tell you what it costs to create in the first place. We've got that, and we've got it to where you can spend it and get the active upgrade and essentially have it. It's just that having the upgrade doesn't do anything different. So we need to actually make our upgrade do something to us. So this is not going to be a permanent fix because the element upgrade is tied to the specific element, and right now we basically don't have a class for elements and current levels for the equipable actual spellcastable items, because there's multiple things going on with, like, either there's a dialogue or a particle system mapped to the entity. There's a type and a sprite and an update. Like there's a type of hitbox, a type of casting, a type of manus interaction with successful spellcast. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on there, and we don't have it split up. So what we're going to have to do for now is a temporary fix where we move all of the spellcasting out of local variables from our scene into probably we can just make them part of the scene here, because we have to redo it anyway. So I think we just want the path of least resistance here just to get it working, and then we'll worry about doing it right when we have other elements, because we're still trying to finish. We're trying to have the demo mainly done by April 1st and then just ready for polish. So this is the last feature we're really adding before the demo, other than the final cinematic, which I'm not so certain how difficult we're gonna make that for us just yet. So this is one of the last two features, and then it's just polish and new sprites and stuff. So let's get going here. We set this thing called a local spellcast entity count. So what I'm gonna do is make sure that our spellcast entity count is part of our scene, which it is here. So let's keep cycling through and make sure we don't accidentally use this without the self. So it looks like, oh, see, we do. Right here, we need to use the self spellcast entity count. So okay, so self spellcast entity count. We've got another one right here. Another one right here. Okay. So this is okay. It's okay we initialize it to 1. Let's just take a look at our next count and make sure that's only ever used here. So let's just make sure our step isn't used. Okay. So the thing is, our step is determined by a spellcast entity count. So we need to recount this step in the init. So basically what we're going to do, we do need to take this, put it in our init, because we need to have access to these without them being local, so that we can re-init our step. And the step is basically how far around us any new object gets. So we're going to initialize it at a self spellcast entity count, and we're going to calculate it here. So as long as we have a spellcast entity count set, which we don't have until right here, let's just do this here. 1. We init is 1. We can get rid of this. Okay. So now we have a self.step rendering as a part of, well, we have to see anytime we use step, it needs to be self-step. So step gets this self-step. Okay, and then find any other reference to step that isn't using... What the heck, dude? Oh my god. No! Why do we do this? Okay, well, the good news is this step is a different step. This isn't a dot step, this is a step size and steps X, and this is for... We basically ended up doing collision detection more than the start and end frame. We kind of do it all the way through. So that's all that is. Okay, so right here, okay, we recalculate our step. Cool, I think that's it. Okay, so as far as our spellcast entity count goes, we now have these variables tied to the scene instantiation, so we can access these fields at a scene view dot member. So now what we need to do is reassign the count to be our updated spellcast entity count, as well as recalculate a step, and then we should be having our upgrades. So map 15 is incorrect. I hope this works. Son of a bitch, dude. Well, the map doesn't get initialized. This is a shit show, man, because I guess what we can do see, like, we've got this where we say let's pass in the spellcast entity count to our map now, but this is just upon the init. It's getting this global, so we would need a way to pass in our global scene to this init, or just make sure our scene is existing before we initialize our map. So yeah, I want to keep this, but where are we doing this? In our dependencies, maybe? We're saying require our map. This isn't the instantiation of it, though. Just requiring it is different. So when we go to create our map, we need a map to exist in order to initialize our scene. So we can't really require a global scene in the map here, like, unless we pass it in self here. Like, can we pass in self to a map? basically zero faith that that'll work. This is bad, man. This is very bad. It's the fourth argument. So right there, that's right. Shit. We're doing things so backwards. Like, I mean, we're passing in a 1 here for spellcast entity instead of the scene views spellcast entity count. But we have so many errors here. We just need to make sure scene view is always the fourth argument. Oh, it's a spellcast count on our player. This is so bad. Because it's not so much that, you know, we basically just need to... See, it's tough because it's like, in order to render 3 spells around us, we need to initialize the particle systems, therefore be able to update them and render them. But we have to know how many of these particle systems we've got, depending on which element we have equipped and which element, what level our element is at. So it's surprisingly tough to try to keep track of all these things because of the way we initialize these things, especially considering we have to change these things over time, right? We need to upgrade the spellcast entity count if we actually purchase the upgrade, but that doesn't affect the initialization of the map. So we'd have to kind of reinitialize the spellcast particle systems by the time we upgrade. But also, we don't have the other types yet, the other types of spells to upgrade. So our whole system is really quite jacked up right now with this. Because ideally we just need to make a decision and say, well, all the elements and all of the particle systems for the elements are going to live with the player, attached to the player class, because that way we can initialize methods on the player class to give us however many particle systems we need for whatever level tier we have unlocked for an element. And then whenever we switch upgrades, we just say, okay, well, now our active element is now this instantiation that's keeping track of what level and what spellcast entity table to update, as well as particle system table to update. But right now it is so not that. Right now we have, yeah. So part of me is thinking, instead of trying to rehaul this to get it to work in the future, I think we just try to get it to work right now because I feel like this is going to take me like 2 or 3 days to separate out, because it's so integral to how the game is loading and changing and reloading current map and scene transitions, and the localized variables are still sitting in random spots. So like we're gonna basically have to gut the whole system to redo it, or we just figure out a way to just change the flamme table to upgrade in the current setting, and then we just make sure that we have to do a deep refactor on all the elements because it is so jacked up right now. So part of me is thinking that we just try to just fix it and get it working, which is easier said than done. But let's see, because I think what I want to do, I think I want to reset our get history here. Let's see, we just changed what, spellcast entities and step. Okay, so let's do this. Let's take a look at how our spellcast entity stuff is counted, because we've always been able to change it just by changing this local variable to be incremented, because that affects how many spellcast entities we're actually updating and rendering, as well as any particle systems. So I think what we need to do is kind of just like initialize all of them right off the bat, give us up to 3, and then only render however many we actively have. So if we get those 2 things figured out, hopefully we can kind of do a makeshift upgrade here before that deep refactor. And I'm like super low energy, super tired, so I'm just not up to refactor right now. If we have a lot of problems getting this working, like I'm gonna call it an early night, because like I'm already just toast. Okay, so what we want to do is go find our spellcast entity count, because that's what's causing how many flames we've got. So if we were to say we've got 3 now, that initialized this step and everything, and that's how we're doing the spacing on how many spellcasts we have. So it's like on the, it's that easy for us to get 3. So you would think, and it's this easy for us to get 2. So you would think it'd be fairly easy to just have this work in game where we can just change this number so that these values get updated appropriately, so that we can just kind of bodge together. What the heck happened there? Why did that happen? What the heck, man? Are our pushables jacked up? What is going on? Okay, well that stone is jacked up. Okay, I'm not worried about it. Not worried about it. That's intended as far as I'm concerned. So our spellcast entity count is used at a couple places. It's used initializing a map, which I don't know why it would be. Let's see. We have a spellcast entities that we pass in, and that's because we're giving a particle system in the map for our thing. See, like this should be on our player, I'm pretty sure, because we put it on the map instead of the scene so that the particles would stay on the scene that they were spawned in as we kind of transition off screen. So it makes sense. It makes sense for that. But what I'm going to do is just say, you know what, whatever, we always are going to have 3 of these in case we're at a level 3. So our spellcast entity count can be initialized to whatever we and then our map width, I guess that's fine. But our particle systems, we're always going to have 3. Now when we go to update them, we go and update them by cycling through our self spellcast entity count. So for right now, I'm just going to say, let's update all 3 of them anyway. But then when we go to render, instead of rendering them all, we're going to render just how many spellcast entity counts we have. See, this is so jacked up because it's like the particle system should be tied to the entity, the spellcast entity, and the spellcast entity should be tied to the player instead of right now, which is like they're both kind of individual and they're tracking both in the map. Hey, what's up, Pocket? I'm really tired, to be honest. I'm like really low energy. Yeah, I just did a ton of work today and I'm just kind of wasted, so hoping we could figure something out here. Okay, so it looks like we've gone through all the particle system, actually the spellcast entity parameter for when we go initialize this from our play state. Okay, so we initialize this one. Now, when we init a map, we pass in a spellcast entity count. So we just need to make sure anytime we make, I mean, yeah, I worked all day and then I built a website for like 5 hours straight and then I'm here now. So I'm just like toast. Just need to make sure this spellcast entity count here that we pass in isn't a global spellcast entity count, but that it is the current spellcast entity count that should be associated with our player. So whenever we find a map instantiation, we're going to make sure that we have this gPlayer spellcast entity count as, what is it, the 3rd argument? Yeah, 3rd argument of our map. So gPlayer spellcast entity count anytime we make a map instantiation. So let's make sure that is right. Spellcast entity count. See, we're using this global value here. Or it's actually just a local for here. Okay. So this isn't right. So let's just go to anytime we use this spellcast entity count. Let's make sure. Oh my god. Anytime we use this, it's gonna be yep. Sorry to hear. Yeah, that's just how it goes sometimes. It's just like one of those days where it's just like nothing but roadblock and roadblock and roadblock. So the scene is only actually initted very rarely. I think it's only initted once in the play state. Well, we initialize it here in the play state and then we also do it here. We reinitialize it after a warp. Yeah, I'm slowly starting to accept that I am not going to figure this out tonight. It's like we just need to totally gut it and redo it because it's just so disjointed. Why did we do it like this? Because in the scene init, it's not even... Well, we do pass in a player, so we should be able to just pass in the player's spellcast entity count. And then here, same thing here. Because we do initialize it with a player, which will be our global player. So we should have the active spellcast entity count here. But we do need for all of these spellcast entity counts to be based off our global player. So we can say that this spell self.player dot spellcast entity count. Because we pull in our player from our scene as a self player, yeah. Okay. So do we have any other spellcast entity count that is still treated locally? Well, not here. Right here we do. Okay. What's crazy is like if we miss one of these things, it'll like all be busted, and it's just like so disjointed, like very tough. Because we have to remember to kind of, you know, update any value that this local variable depended on. By the time we update our entity count, we need to update anything that needed, and those were local, so we don't have scope to them. So, you know, things like the step or that stuff would all be needed to recalculate, and it's just like, yeah, see, like this step right here would need to be recalculated with that updated value, which we'd have to remember to do at a certain time, which if it's not related, if it's local like this, we just can't modify it. So yeah, it's a mess, to be honest. So let's see if we just totally crash at this point. Yep, scene 39. Yeah, we need a number here for the spellcast entity count, so this is a player. That argument 1 got a table, not a number. Spellcast entity count is actually, yeah, spellcast entity count. So maybe we just never initialized that on our player. It's called spellcast count, homie. Spellcast count. We got a big ol' mistake somewhere because our syntax is all off. Shit. Oh, man. Okay, this is just not initialized. So we must not be passing in a player when we instantiate a scene, I guess. Well, we're passing it in there, we're passing it in there. Those are the only 2 times. So are we initializing spellcast count? Spellcast count gets 1 here. Oh my god, it's so bad. We have a self spellcast entity count on the scene table, pulling from our player's spellcast entity count. Yeah, because I think we went through this whole song and dance before, because I think we used to have the elements on the player, but what that meant was when we tween our player to go from one side of the screen to the other, then the particle emitter on the elements would move with the player since they're tied to the player. So that's why we put it in the map, so it exists in the map outside of the player, so that when we scene transition, the particles stay on the scene on the map it belonged to, rather than travel with the player as we tween the player. So I think that's the reason it's so disjointed. And I think if we go to fix it and do what I'm saying and move it to the player, we'll get that old error, because I'm pretty sure we used to do that now that I'm thinking about it. So I don't know, we're still crashing here, which doesn't make sense because we have a player and we pass it in. So this, when it crashes here, spellcast count, it just should not. Bad argument 1, table expected. All right, scene 51. So bad. Spellcast entities is a nil value. Even though we cycle through our spellcast count and create an entity for our spellcast entities, it's a self.spellcast entities, not a self.player spellcast entities. Self.self. God damn it, dude. Attempt to index a nil value at map 297. We don't initialize every particle system, I guess. This is in the scene, not the map. We need to make sure. Why do we do this? Do we have a particle system table here? The P system is in our .p systems, which is our scene. What the fuck, dude? Because it's almost like we need a different method of storing the spells particle systems versus the overworld particle system. This is the particle system on the map. Yeah, I got a big time feeling that we're not gonna figure this out right now. Because if this is the nil value, our spellcast entities aren't even correct on our scene. Well, and this is weird. What the heck are we doing here? We move our maps particle systems to be the particle system of a spellcast entity X plus an offset. So the spellcast entities are like the flames themselves, but the particle system are the particles off the flames. So we're just moving the particle system to track our flames here. But why would our particle systems be nil here? Because our self particle systems that's being nil, just make sure it is the particle system, not the spellcast entities. Map 297. I don't know if it's the spellcast entity. Okay, well, I'm very surprised that we have something changed. So when we go to here, we're saying let's move this not to I that we're cycling through here, because we would be moving every particle system for every. Yeah, we're making 3 of them, but we're saying they're all right now going to be tracking on the first flame unless we give it different values here and we just start crashing. So our spellcast entity from our scene looks to be incorrect here. So our spellcast entity is saying, well, we insert an entity for every player spellcast count. So let's set our player spellcast count to 3 here. because this is one of those values that needs to change when we update, and then we also need to re-clear and update the spellcast entity table on our scene once we do the upgrade if we want that to carry over and not crash on us. So self.spellcast entity count, let's just say that we've got 3 here on our player now. And we'll go back and we'll put I instead of 1, because now we should have 3 in our spellcast entity table on our scene. So at least we're not crashing. We only have the 1 fire, even though we have 3 spellcast entities. So somewhere in the render, we're probably just not rendering, we're both not rendering the particle system or the spellcast entity in our scene here. So let's go spellcast entity. We're going to look for when we render these guys, and we render based on a local spellcast entity count. We should do this based on a player spellcast count. Okay, we still only have 1. So spellcast count, player spellcast count. That is the thing we just changed to spellcast count 3. Okay, so either we're deducting this somewhere, or we aren't updating all of the values in our scene's spellcast entity count correctly. So our spellcast entity count is from our player's spellcast entity count. That's fine. That should be 3. Then we cycle through however many we've got, which is 3. We insert an entity for each flame, and then we give a state machine for each of those flames, and we change each of those flames to idle. So where do we update? Well, between here, we update here. We cycle through a table of self spellcast entities, not player spellcast entities. But spellcast entities are the table that we inserted them into. Okay, so maybe the only issue here is the step and stuff. Like if we were to modify this by I scaled by something, I'd be curious if we see more than 1 entity here. We do. So this is telling me that we do have 3 entities, and they're all just set to the same location because our step is calculated. If we look at where this step is calculated, it's right here based on a count, and the count is based on a spellcast entity count, and that's counted by a 1. So that's why. So let's just move this stuff to be after we have it in the scene, and we have a spellcast entity count assigned right here from the player. So at that point, I'm going to say, you know what, there's no longer a local spellcast entity count, but where we assign the spellcast entity count right above us, there's no longer a local count. There is a count that belongs on the scene, and the scene is going to take that from its own spellcast entity count. Same with step. There's a step, self.step, that pulls from not the local count but the self.count. So now we have 3 values here. We need to make sure spellcast entity count isn't being referenced as a local variable anymore. Okay, it looks like not. That's good. Let's see if count is... it isn't. And let's see if step is, which it is. So we'll switch that to a self dot step. Okay. Any other steps? No. Not a dot step. Right. This is for our collision detection. Oh, right here. Any others? No. Just double checking. We're not missing any dot step. Okay. Okay, so now we should have 3 flames separated from one another with a spellcast entity of 3, which is good. So now if we were to come in here to our player and we say, you know what, our spellcast entity count is actually 1. Did I save this? Spellcast count 1. Because the thing is, we're still updating them regardless of how many we have. Shit. Map 297, we're crashing. Right here. Where did we go, man? Oh, see, we're cycling through. Yeah, we're updating our just 3 G player spellcast count. Okay, we've got 1. So let's go back to our player. And then let's try 2. Spellcast entity of 2. We're hoping to have 2 opposite spellcast. Cool. Okay, so now these are not being magically decided by a local variable, but now they're being, this is a level 2 flamme upgrade. So we want to trigger this once we actually buy the upgrade. And in order to do that, the only thing we should have to do is we have to upgrade this spellcast count, but if we look at what we're doing to calculate the entities, we're rendering them and updating them based on a step, and the step is calculated based on a count. So we need to basically reinitialize this step once we calculate it. So like if we go to the dot step. See, look, our step is calculated here based on a count, and the count is at this moment in time, whatever the spellcast entity count is. So we need to modify our scene views dot count and dot step to be representative of the new spellcast entity count once we get the upgrade. So once we get the upgrade here in the element upgrade, we get this, oh my god. Well, to buy the first level, the active level would have to be 1, and then you'd have to have enough. And if you have enough rubies to do this, then right here we need to say, not our self, any self is going to be replaced with our global scene view. And we need to increment our players dot spell count by 1 here. And then we do this not on a spellcast entity count, but a G player spell count. That's not right. Player spellcast count. Spellcast count. Okay. So we have one spell. We have one fire. And then if we come in here and go, son of a bitch. Spellcast entities here based on a spellcast count. So spellcast entities are here in our scene. So when we initialize these spellcast entities, we initialize based on a player spellcast count. We don't want to do that. We want to give us all three right off the bat so we can update them when they exist, so we don't have to go in and reinitialize them and remember all those settings and stuff. So here's the one. If we get the upgrade, we don't crash, and now if we spellcast, we got two. We've got two. The particle systems are jacked up, but we've got two. That's great. So we have, oh, it's actually working. We've got the particle systems. It just didn't reset in the room, which kind of makes sense. Let's see if we try to buy the third upgrade. We need more money. Our level didn't even increment. So yeah, our freaking level didn't even increment. We should have upgraded active level here, which it does. So one thing we never tested is if we walk out of the room and come back in, our level is actually changed again. So it looks like we're knitting an active level for a spellcast element instead of pulling it in from our scene or something. So we'll have to fix that, but I'm curious if we give ourselves enough rubies. If we give us enough rubies to actually buy the other upgrade, all three upgrades, then if we could have more fire. So like we've got fire here. We've got one fire. Yo, Salto, what up? Check this out. We've got one fire, right? We walk into the shop. We can afford a level 2 for 25 rubies. It decrements it. It tells us we've unlocked it. Then if we go to spellcast, we've got 2 fires. If we try to buy a third for 50, it'll say we've unlocked it. It'll say we've unlocked all of them. And now when we cast, we only have 2. Son of a bitch. So we need to go to the upgrade element. We need to do this same exact thing, but for when our ruby count at a selection of active level 2. So we'll plop it down right there so we can get both upgrades. Now we still need to figure out how to not reset our level upon leaving and coming back, and also indexing a nil value on scene 591 here. This should be right. So why do we crash? If we take that out, we're able to buy the upgrade no problem and buy the upgrade no problem. It's just that we never actually increment our spellcast count until we do it here. So if we were to increment our spellcast count to 3 instead of 2, we crash on scene 591 for some reason in our scene. Even just getting the first upgrade, we crash. So in our scene on 591, was it? We don't have this because we're setting our scene, what is this? Render based on a spellcast entity count. No, a spellcast count. But also yeah, so was the issue right here that it didn't know how to render? Because it's like we render, this is weird. Why do we cycle through our spellcast count? If it's successful cast, we render our entity, and then we just go ahead and render our entity anyway. we were just like double rendering that. What the heck? Totally different crash. This was for the particle, the spellcast entities. It's either for the spellcast entity or the particle system. Now, I think it's probably... I don't know. I feel like our spellcast entities are correct. So I feel like it's the particle system. And that's weird. This is... Our particle systems are for our spellcast entities are living in our map so that they live locally by the time we scene transition. So here, when we go to not only render them, but update them, I think we need to make sure, see like right here, okay, we do update them in a spellcast count loop, but we render them in a spellcast entity count on our map. Yeah, man. Okay, we just keep crushing here now. Don't know why. 297 in our map. So it's either the particle system for the spellcast, or it is the actual spellcast entity itself, which I don't think it is. I don't think it is the spellcast entity because we were just rendering them okay. What is really weird... Yeah, what is really weird is if we go to our upgrade element and we turn off the second upgrade, does it fix itself here? We can buy level 2, we don't crash. So what is it? What is it about incrementing the player count one more time that makes it crash? Only from a level 1 and not from a level 3. Well, I guess we don't officially increment it here yet. So like if we were to say this isn't commented out, but we're going to decrement it by 1, do we still get a crash? After the second upgrade, right? Let's see. So we've got 1 spellcast entity. We get an upgrade. We have 2. Huh. I just decremented it to 0. So this is not the right one. No, actually. What the fuck? Oh, you know what? Whoa, active level 2. Yeah, this shouldn't have happened. We should have incremented still. But we did not. What the fuck, man? That shouldn't exist because we're not even an active level 2 by the time we hit spacebar. But I guess this is just in the calculate. Jesus Christ. We calculate anytime we handle an upgrade. So how come this one, if we comment out the other one, now we should get the extra spellcast entity like expected. But why would we have decremented it on the, if the active level was 2? Because we only do this if active level is 1 here. So some part of me is thinking that like the instant, let me think this through. Cuz oh, you know what? We might have to build this out backwards in the scope of the else if condition, because what happens is like we have enough rubies to buy the second upgrade, yes. Then we increment our spellcast count, but we also oh, actually I think we should handle our upgrade here. Where are we handling upgrade? Because yeah, it should be okay. At the very end we say, well, if action is pressed and if whatever our selection was is a table of purchasable, then we're gonna handle the upgrade. Okay, so no, I was wrong in thinking that. What I thought was happening was I thought we were incrementing our active level, and then it would, the else if would continue and say, okay, well, else if active level 2 or 3 that we now are because we incremented it, then if you had enough rubies, go ahead and increment your spellcast count. So that's what I thought was happening, where it was just kind of like catching a double upgrade because we had enough rubies by the time we upgraded once. But that's not really what's happening. What's happening is once action is pressed, we handle an upgrade if the result table is purchasable. So if the thing is green and we press spacebar on it, then we handle the upgrade. Let's see what handle upgrade is. Well, it asks what type we are, then it does this whole thing. So let's do the increment here. And we're going to say, well, when we handle the upgrade, we're going to increment our spellcast here. Okay, we've got 1. We buy an upgrade. We've got 2. Cool. Cool. And both particle systems are working. Now if we go and get the 3rd upgrade, it doesn't crash. We've got 3. We've got 3. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Okay. Oh, hell yeah. Okay, now technically, oh, we can't handle an upgrade, so we can't just increment to 4, but there's nothing stopping the code from us upgrading it more than 1 at a time, right? So it's like we could say anytime we buy an upgrade, we're actually going to upgrade by 2 levels. Now this might crash if we hard code in any limit to the spellcast entity count, which I think we do limit it to 3. So we should be able to get the first upgrade, which gives us 3. See, yeah, we should have. Yeah, oh, I guess 3 is right. But then once we get this upgrade, yeah, we crash because we have more spellcast entities than we can render or update. So, okay. So if we were to give a bigger number in there, we could get more spellcast entities, but that's not allowed. So the last thing we need to figure out, oh, that feels so good to have upgrades in the game here. What we need to do is once we get an upgrade, we've got level 2, we walk out, we come back in, and we're back at current level 1. So let's take a look at our upgrade element. And the thing is, we kind of reset an active level right here in the init. So we don't want to do that. We want to pull, I don't know how we want to do it, because it makes sense. We're resetting it. We're resetting it to 1 right here. So we could just set it to be the player's flamme upgrade level for now. So when we initialize this scene, we're just going to pull the active level from the player. So then anytime we upgrade the active level, we need to assign it here, because the active level would get increased here. So we would say, well, the player's active level, actually, the player's flamme upgrade level is going to be equal to whatever the current active level is right here. And then we just need to say, well, our flamme upgrade level is a 1 when we initialize because we already have it. So flamme upgrade level here is 1. Okay, let's see if we don't reset our active level here. So we've got active level of 2. You can see that by this black bar hovering over level 2 and level 2 being black. Black means it's unlocked, so the bar signifies we're on level 2, and the black signifies that it's going to say something like you've already unlocked it. So if we leave and come back, we should be at a level 2 because we're spawning it based on a player's flamme level. Fuck me. Okay. We do an active level here. Active level. Okay, let's start at the top. Well, we're pulling it from the flamme upgrade level. What the hell? If we're type flamme active level 0, let's pull from the player's value after we do that. I don't know why that is. Okay, we've got 2. We leave, we come back. We're still at level 1, man. So what the hell's going on with this? Why would active level be 0 if we're type flamme? We've got flamme unlocked, so it should be level 1. So why do we have this? Now the upgrade element is kind of like the object keeping track of what level each element's in. So when we talk to flamme there, the red one, it's updating that active level one, and it's just getting reset for some reason. So we must be just resetting it somewhere. Let's continue digging. Active level. Now we remember it in the scene, like we're remembering it, but what's happening is we're not updating our oh, and you know what? We're not. Okay, so I think what's happening is we initialize it to our player's value, but when we leave the room, we change states. So we're never going to re-init that again. It's already initted, it's just not being updated. So when we come back, yeah, why would it get flushed then? Why would it get flushed if we just leave it and come back? I don't know. Let's see what we're doing with upgrade element is a thing here up. Okay, so we change to a refinery state when we walk in here. Now, do we have any active upgrade? We initialize this as nil. We're not reinitializing the refinery state though. We do upgrade it, update it, we set. Okay, well, the refinery states where we're doing the check for the active dialog boxes. So basically we listen for an input of interaction, we check for collision for any dialog box, could be one of 5 actually if you count Ren. If the dialog box is a type of, because that's what we say right here, we say, well, if it was V2, then we set an active upgrade And active upgrade is the table that holds the upgrade element class. So we're saying active upgrade gets the flamme upgrade, which has a self.active level of whatever. So we're just resetting the flamme's active level upon leaving a scene for some reason, and I don't know why. Because all we're doing is we're doing this set selection, then calculate, which does the right things in the refinery state. It's just that when we leave and come back, it's busted. So there's something else we're missing here. We're not touching the active level here. So I don't see any reason for that to be the case. Like unless we're reinitializing a refinery state anytime we leave and come back. So if I don't think we're reinitializing it. I think we're just walking in. Let's look at when we change to refinery state. Change state. What is it? Change state. Refinery. Yeah, we don't reinitialize it. We just change to the refinery state. So I do not see where we would be reinitializing our active level to be 1. Let's see, active level. It's going to be set to the flamme upgrade level. So either we're not incrementing it. Let's print up flamme upgrade level and make sure that that is carrying over. So let's go here. We'll just put it, we can put it in our player class so that we can actually see it in the refinery state. So we're going to say, let's go ahead and say graphics.print. And what we're printing is a stringified version of our global player's flamme upgrade level. We're going to print it up. We're going to close that so we don't crash. Print it up at 010. So we should see this be 1. We're not even seeing it. Because the thing is, we can't put it in the play state because we can't see the refinery. So if we want to see if it changes upon coming out, we'd have to put it in 2 spots. We'd have to come out and put it on our play state, which is fine. We'll put it here on our play state, and then we'll also put it up in our refinery state so that we can see it at both times. Okay, so we have an active level of 1, active level of 1. We come here, we're not incrementing it. Okay, so that's good news, because that just means we did it wrong. And nothing, it's not like we did it and then it's wrong, it's that we just did it wrong. So when we go to handle our upgrade in our spellcast element, we flamme upgrade level on the player, we're just setting it to be the active level. We need to increment it by the active level, right? No. Now we just need to pull the active level. Okay, so we do this here, but we need to do this here. After we increment our active level, we need to set our flamme upgrade to be the activated level. So now we should have active level 2 once we buy the upgrade, and when we leave, we should still have 2 because it's carried over to our player. And then when we come in here, active level should be 2. Let's fucking go. Let's go. We just got 3 upgrades. 3 spellcast upgrades, and they exist through the different states. And we have the right info tables. Yo, this is huge. This is huge. We just officially added full upgrades to flamme in the game. And it's totally right, no bugs. So we're gonna go to refinery state. We're going to take out this. We're going to go to play state. We're going to take out this. Okay, let's walk it through one more time. Let's see. So in our inventory, we've got 98 rupees. We get rupees from the dungeon over here. So in the dungeon over here, you get these rupees, and they don't respawn until a certain amount of time has passed. So you can't just like, after I can harvest them, we can harvest them. And now we've got 100 rupees. We should cap that to 99. I thought we did, but we need to do that. And then, because we need to limit it to two, we don't have enough render spots to render 3 digits worth of rupees, and it's just a lot of rupees. So we come into the store, and it pulls up our rupees. It only says 10 because we're limiting this number to 2. That's actually 100, because if we were to buy level 2 right here, you know, what's cool is like our system knows if you can afford, because technically level 3 requires 100 rupees, and 50 rupees, and we have 50 rupees. We actually have more. We have 100, but you can't buy level 3 without buying level 2 first. So it's gonna say level 3 requires level first, and it's red. You can't buy it, even though you technically have enough. So you have to upgrade to level 2 first. It deducted our rupees, and then it says you've unlocked it, and then we can refine it to level 3 for 50 rupees, which we can do. So we just got the 2 upgrade, which now we've got 2 spell casts for our flamme, and then we can come in here and get level 3, and it says we've unlocked level 3, and now we've got our 3 spellcast entities. And then we've got, 25 rupees. So the goal is, if people get stuck in the dungeon, they can kind of just come through here, play these first parts, and come in here and mine some rubies over time to go get these upgrades. So if they can't, I mean, the dungeon, you can beat it with it's actually not that much easier with more spellcast entities, but it will help you on certain levels. So it just makes it so much easier. Like, it's more of a protective barrier. So you can probably like slow walk your way through the 4th dungeon if you have all 3 elements. We're not setting the opacity quite right on the downwards, because it kind of just disappears all at once on the black opacity, and that's, I don't know where we're setting that wrong. But now we're kind of like, now you got like a whole wall of fire around you at this point. I'm gonna try to beat the level with with breaking the crates, because normally if you break the crates, there's so many bats that you just get screwed. But if you've got a level 3 flamme, these guys will still spank you though. Wow. Yeah, you can live. You can totally live. You can even work your way up from the bottom here. Oh my god, they just hit me like crazy. We might want to add hit detection while they're flying out of their holes, but maybe not. But it's nice if you've got flamme level 3, you actually can go the other way in the dungeon really easily. Okay. Sweet. And then after going, particularly ham, our vibrancy is almost out. So you could see that bar on our element down there that's almost drained. We can't cast if we don't have any of that, which let's just check and make sure that's the case. If we keep using our manas, we'll drain that bar, and then once we're out of that bar, we can't officially spellcast. Let's see. We still can. Okay, so we need to actually add the limit where you can't cast. We'll have it where you can't even spend manas if you're out of element, because it's like there's nothing to focus. Or or the results of your focus just doesn't even output any spellcast. But the idea is you come here and meditate, that recharge my bar, and then you can use it more. So one thing that isn't right is the rendering here for the spellcast entities, and it is set by spellcast entities. Where do we render these things? I want to say it's in the map, because we update them here. So no, we probably do it here in the scene. Oh my god. Okay, so look at this. We set a fade for our spellcast based on the spellcast fade. So before we render our spellcast entities, oh, you know what? We might need this. Let's think about what that does if this fixes it. Yeah, it does make it fade away. Okay, so we needed that secondary spellcast render. See, this is bad. This is the equivalent of throwing away. This is the equivalent of not throwing away that one random chord, and 5 years later it comes back and you actually needed it, and you're like, see, that's why I don't throw away chords. Because what I just did there, I didn't delete this even though I thought it was totally unnecessary. I just commented it out. And if you look at our code, we've got a ton of those things, just like little things that are just left there and commented out. And it's because moments like this where sometimes something's broken, I don't know why, and I'm like, well, there's a comment here for some reason, and I turn it back on and it fixes the thing. So like that's the reinforcement of my bad habit right there, because we just got rewarded for that. I don't think I would have remembered that we had this double weird render here. So like, what's happening here? Basically, if we're a successful cast, we're rendering our spellcast entity so that we can see it. But then, the instant we're not successfully casting, we would not be rendering the spellcast because we're not successfully casting, even though we were just successfully casting. So we have to still set the spellcast fade. So I guess if we were to switch this and say, you know what, we're going to render it wherever, we're going to render it regardless of successful cast, it probably would still work fairly well. Yeah, because basically the entities are always there. It's just whether or not we can actually render them and see them. So like those entities are always going to be following you around. You just can't see them. So we could do this where, you know, it's not that we render it only if it's a successful spellcast, it's that we render it at the ability to see it, and the ability to see it is based off if you're in a successful cast or not. So as you get in a successful cast range, that alpha channel ramps up so that you can see it and it's opaque. So we could just have it like this. We can just render it no matter what, and we'll be crazy and throw away our chord, because this should be fine. So this is a set fade for spellcast. I'm going to call this render spellcast so that we can grep search it easier. Okay, so we've got upgrades in our game now. We've got the refinery. We've got the refinery working for every type of element in the game, even though you can't even get the minerals yet for each level. So it's nice that we've got separate inventory. It says we've got 0 sapphire. It says we've got 98 rubies. So it's its own separate inventory, separate upgrade level with custom response strings saying level 3 requires level 2 echo, so it knows which one we've selected because it's rendering both the correct element and the correct mineral. We've got 99 topaz for some reason, so yeah, we apparently upgraded locks to level 3 even though we don't even have it. So this is great. We're in a great shape here. That was basically the last That was basically the last feature before the demo is done. I mean, we still have the final cinematic. Once you play the correct lute song on the correct scene, it's going to trigger a little cinematic that cleanses the waters of the opening area. So everything by Mage's Castle, everything by the Dark Temple, that'll be cleared. It'll be like a little... I don't know how we're going to do the cinematic just yet, because our game only works on rendering a global map, and we don't have the ability to update a global map with new tables other than our animatables. So we'd have to figure out some kind of janky scene render if we want to render something other than a global map to get our thing to change. But then we would need to update our global map to have the updated values too. So maybe what we do is we just write a little script that cycles through all of our global map data tables, and it takes the first text ID of any animatable purple water, and it replaces it with the first text ID of a blue water. So what we'll do is we'll just render the scene that with the purple water for 3 seconds. We'll fade to black. We'll run our script. We'll change every animatable to a blue water. We'll fade back from black. I was going to make an AC/DC reference there. And then it actually updates our global map table with the uncorrupted waters. So I'm not now like talking it through like that. If we go something simple like that, no scripted player movements, no scripted dialogue boxes, we just do a scene, we render it, we fade, we change the global map table, update the insert animatable tables, fade back, we have blue water, like it cleanse the waters, and then we can just add a little dialogue that says, well, I don't know. I think it should just, at that point, once you fade it, it'll say thanks for playing or whatever, say stay tuned for the full game or something, and then it'll give you an option, hey, do you want to continue playing? And then you can continue exploring. So that state is not going to be that tough. It's just going to be those two, fade to black, change global table, fade from black, fade in, thanks for playing, with a continue screen, which we already have. And that's the last feature in the demo. We need to put the loot in the treasure chest and put that on the other side of the dungeon. But we've already got that ability to put things in treasure chests already. So it's not a new feature. It's just, at this point, all we have is the cinematic, and that's it for new stuff. I've got to add some of the songs that I wrote for it, but no new features. So this is very nice. Git commit with a message, totally fixed entire spellcast system for upgrades. Don't look at the commit. No. I'll say we'll say temporarily fixed, right? Temp fix for flamme spellcast system. So the issue here is when we handle an upgrade, like for locks, we're technically upgrading the flamme upgrade on the player. So even though we don't have any topaz minerals in the demo, we would need to massively refactor how we're going about not only the spellcast entities, but also the mana system, the magic system, based on what element you currently have equipped, because different elements play differently. They have different attack patterns and different spellcasting success rates. So it's going to be different for each one. So we'll have to rehaul that whole system so that we're not just doing it for flamme, but we upgrade it to handle whatever one you've got equipped. So that's why I put this temp fix for spellcast system upgrades, because it's working for flamme, but that's it. So we'll just call it a night there. We'll get commit and push, and we will find someone to raid after we run our credits here. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow. Try to get we'll have to check our list, because it's getting close to April. I'm actually in a pretty good spot. Like we got all kinds of stuff working. So this was like the last thing I was really worried about. And after talking through the cinematic, I'm not worried about the cinematic now either. So I'm sure that'll go very smooth and no issues. So we're doing good. We're doing good. Let's find someone to raid out to. Let's see here. All right, we're just gonna raid out to Grumble of Pugs here. I haven't checked his stream out in a while. He's doing some A-Sprite right now, so we'll raid out, call it a night. Thanks for hanging, y'all. Hope y'all have a great night and get some good sleep. I know I'm gonna go crash. All right, peace out.